Great to have all four of us here today. We are talking about creative jobs, specifically in arts, design, and we have a number of different professionals that are going to share their experiences. John Carlos is one of our very own staff members and a Wallin alumni. We plan on keeping this fairly informal. If we could just start with each of the four of you sharing about your role, what you're doing today, where you're working, and then what your major was where you went to college. And we'll plan on kicking it off from there. Whoever would like to go first, I try to keep this not feeling like class, so I will not call on anyone. We'll keep it popcorn style. Whoever would like to go first. Thank you. John Carlos, you want to kick it off?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. My name is Jean Carlos. I am an alumni of the program as well. So I was class of 2012. I graduated from Wallin. I went to Iowa State University. I majored in marketing. And that was, I was really excited about nonprofit work, and I was really excited about impacting the world. And I loved things like Photoshop and branding. And since I worked in a lot of small nonprofits from the beginning, I just had a lot of those worlds where we had to make something out of nothing. And that's what really helped me be creative and gave me opportunities to do that. And now I work at Wallin Education Partners. I am manager of marketing and alumni relations.
I can go next. Hey everyone, my name's Yahya Rushdie. I'm currently living in Madison, Wisconsin, but I'm originally from Duluth, Minnesota. Graduated from the University of Minnesota with a BFA in graphic design. Right out of school, I got a job in my hometown in Duluth at an ad agency called Flint Group, where I was there for 4 years. And then I moved over to Madison 3 years ago, where I work as a studio artist at Keebing, which is another advertising agency. So I've been in the industry for about 7 years now.
Oh, I can go next. So my name is Susie. I went to University of Minnesota Twin Cities. I first started off with graphic design, but then I majored in Bachelor of Individualized Studies, which is like you design your own major. So my 3 areas, which is like 3 minors and 2 a major. So it's design, communications, and Chicano Latino studies. So now I'm living in Los Angeles. I work for Dermalogica, a skincare brand. And I've been in the skincare beauty industry for, it's going to be a year and 2 weeks. So that's exciting. Before I was doing a lot of nonprofit work and actually worked with a Mexican company before this position.
And hi, I'm Brandon Hunt. My wife actually works for Wallin, Rachel. So I live in Minneapolis. I am the director of product management for PRX, which we are a public media kind of distributor of content and podcasts. So if you listen to podcasts, you've probably heard at least one PRX thing, I would think, maybe. But in my role, I work on the tech platform for it. So I do a lot of the design work for it. I do a lot of like listening to our users and talking to producers and talking to the rest of the staff and seeing what kind of features they need in it. I'm like getting ready for this, I was forced to do some math. I mean, I graduated from college 15 years ago, which seems like a long time. The numbers start adding up. I don't feel that old. Yeah, and so I've been at PRX for 7 years. And I've grown into my position there. Prior to that, I was working at a web design agency in Bloomington. And actually, I should say I went to Bethel. My major was media communication. Yeah, and I chose media communication because it just kind of captured more of my interest, and I had no idea what I wanted to do for my career. So,
I love it. Well, thank you all four for introducing yourselves. I feel like you each are the spice of life, the creative ones that make it exciting for the rest of us. And I love Susie even getting more meta with it of not only design, but designing your own major. That's great. So would love to start off by just learning a little more of how did you find yourself in the space that you're each in? You know, was the creative space something you always had an interest, or did you discover that in college? You know, what does that look like for each of you?
I can, oh, Susie, where are you gonna go?
No,
Okay, you're good. So honestly, choosing a graphic design major in college wasn't even a thought coming out of high school. I didn't even know what graphic design was or never even heard of it. I knew what art was. So I actually was a art major coming out of college. But you know, growing up, I've always been a visual person. I remember as a kid, I would always be like fascinated with like whatever illustrations or graphics I could find from like Saturday morning TV shows and like, I don't know, cereal box containers, like everything like appealed to me. And I remember just like sketching and doodling random things growing up, and my parents were always like, oh, you're probably gonna be an artist someday. So then I did the major. After my freshman year, I started to question, I guess, the job prospects with an art major. So I looked into graphic design and realized that it would be more of a, I guess, marketable thing for me coming out of school, but still maintaining that creativity that I've always loved growing up. So.
cool. For me, like in high school, like I always loved the like art classes. Had an art teacher who was super um I wouldn't say like dedicated, but she like really pushed me to do a lot of types of work. And so like growing up with immigrant parents, I'm also an immigrant. Like they're just like, you're gonna do art. Like what is that? Like so it's just like really trying to explain the I guess the strategic thing behind it. I guess they kind of trusted me that I kind of knew what I was doing. So within graphic design, I was just doing graphic design at first, but I wanted to broaden my aspects a little bit more just in case I wanted to switch around careers. Like I have like a, what is it, like a mid-year crisis or whatever. And I want to switch things up. I thought this would be a really good way to kind of jump into another industry or another aspect, but still being well-rounded where I can have that experience to do so. So with designing my own major, I was able to do all of that. And with currently my current role within Dermalogica is the International E-commerce and Digital Specialist. So I work with Asia, Latin America, and New Zealand distributors in terms of their digital efforts, in terms of their e-com, social media influencers, and all of that. So I guess the most helpful thing was that realizing that having like a design your own major was an option for me to do so instead of just piling up more minors and making my workload in college a little bit more difficult. So finding out those resources for you that fit what you really want to do best would be good. Like I didn't make this switch until my junior year. So I found the best possible solution for it to work with my schedule so I wouldn't have taken like an extra 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was,
Oh,
go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead. Ask your follow-up.
No, I was just struggling to find the unmute. You're fine.
Okay. So with me, like when I was in high school, I was fortunate enough to be like on the yearbook staff for like 3 out of the 4 years. And most of that time, I swear I just learned how to use Photoshop. Like the teacher just printed off tutorials for me. I followed them, I learned them. And that was like Photoshop version 1, like 1999, right? So, and I just like really enjoyed it, had a lot of fun with it. And so by the time I got to college and I'm looking at the major guide, um, it was like I didn't necessarily know what the end result of a career would look like, but I knew the things that I enjoyed doing. And so I just like tried to find the major that allowed me to do the most things. And the major I had, like the way it was structured at the time, I don't think it exists there at the school now, but um, it was like a communications major with like a built-in minor that included like video production, graphic design, creative writing, um, and some art classes, and that seemed to really kind of fit, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So that's yeah how I chose.
Yeah. For me, I just knew in high school I wanted to make an impact. So I was really passionate about ministry and nonprofits, and I'd be in those circles, and we'd have to do an event, and we'd want people to come to the event. And I was the one who knew how to make posters and flyers and things on social media. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. And then I kept going. That we had more groups at more schools, and we had to design a brand. Oh, how do we design a brand so every group, every school has kind of the same identity? Okay, we got to design a brand. How do we make a logo? Let's make a logo. And we need a video to get more people to become leaders, to start more groups at more schools. How do we make a video? Let's just do it. And I was in all these scenarios where the goal was just to make an impact, and we had to like figure out how to do that with no money and no resources. And cool, I don't have Photoshop. What's GIMP? Let's get into GIMP. Like, oh, I don't have photo. I remember I would do everything in Microsoft Word at the beginning. I would have to treat them like layers. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, I would have to like put a rectangle as a background, change its gradients, because I didn't have money for Photoshop. And it's interesting. I heard a mentor once tell me that money sometimes kills creativity. It's when you have nothing and you just have to go do it, and you do it. And then as I did it, these skills became marketable tools, right? I knew how to do website. Yeah, of course. Weebly, Word, Square, of course. Who does it? And then I would be in rooms with people that I have a startup. I don't know how to, I want to do this. I don't know how to do that. And these skills became in demand. I didn't originally want to go into school for art or graphic design per se. I just wanted to go and make an impact. In doing that, I fell in love with creative stuff. I fell in love with graphic design. I love Adobe. It became a part of my life, and then those skills became meaningful for a job afterward.
I love it. Each you shared about just the exposure, whether it was exposure to the possibility of designing your own major, or the exposure to the courses you had that led to future opportunities. Would you be willing to share more about what were the like specific experiences that really kind of like set you on your way? Was it internships or, you know, apprenticeships, or just conversations you've had that you felt were very, you know, formative in knowing where you wanted to go?
I could start with this one, I guess. So I was also fortunate to have a roommate that like had already built his own content management system, like by the time he came to college. And so, and I didn't really know a lot about coding and stuff, but he was willing to like teach me and show me. And I was able to um, like really know that I enjoyed that. And it kind of married the design and a lot of different aspects together. And then from there, I could see a career. And I actually built my own internship because it was like, once again, it was like uh, early in the website game. There wasn't a lot of like, you couldn't take a website class in college at the time when I went. And so, or like building it, like there's a computer science degree, but that was really hard coding. I didn't want to do that. It wasn't presentational. And so, yeah, I was pretty fortunate there. So I did create my own internship because I remember walking into the career office one day asking, can you help me find an internship? They just kind of gave me blank stares. I don't know how to help you. But yeah, so I know it's different now in schools, but that was my experience.
Well, with me, I was lucky enough to have a work study job at the Career Service Center. So I think they specifically hired me because I did have graphic design experience. So I was able to not only fulfill the necessities that they needed as a front desk worker, but they gave me the opportunity to really enhance my major, I guess, when at the time, or my experiences, to have me do specific projects that would give me that experience within like redesigning their Gold Pass website, for example. It's just like nothing super big, but still gave me some experience, or redoing flyers and stuff like that, and posters for job fairs and stuff. So I really appreciated that they took that my experience to like an extra step. So maybe just like with the work study job that you have, making sure that they know what career you're wanting to, and they can help you find those opportunities for you to, like, either they know of someone that wants to do a side job for you, or they can connect you with other people to really excel you further in that. So that's how I was able to kind of do more hands-on things without having a set internship. I never really had a set internship. I also did a lot of freelance work for friends, student groups. Like, I was very involved with the campus and community involvement as well. So like a lot of nonprofits or like charter schools. Like, I really worked a lot with like El Colegio charter school in Minneapolis. So they were able to give me little opportunities here and there, even though I didn't have a full-on internship experience with them.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of on the same as John Carlos and Susie. When I was in school, I tried to look for as many opportunities as I could, whether it be student organizations. I'm Malaysian, so I was part of the Malaysian Student Association, and I was the only one who knew how to use Photoshop. So, you know, go ahead and try it. And it was really beneficial to the group, but it's also like you're spreading, you know, like the knowledge of your own culture to the greater university, which is a pretty cool thing. My internship was at the STEM Education Center at the University of Minnesota, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And that was awesome because I got to work with professors and students and really kind of delve into an industry, I suppose, that I wouldn't otherwise would have been a part of. So it was cool to learn all about like teaching in classes, and you know, I'm not good at math or science, so you know, it's interesting to be a part of that that world through design and through what I know being creative. So
Yeah, I think there's so many opportunities. And if I'm honest, I would say that most of the things that I know about marketing did not happen in a marketing class. Like I wasn't taught, like it was around college, not really in college, that I learned most of these things. Being a part of ministries, organizations, startups are super fun. Like it's, you know, even if it doesn't work out, right? You get 6 to 12 months of branding something from 0 to 100, right? There are a lot of, you know, jobs where you go in and everything creative has already been determined, right? If you work at Target, you're not changing the logo, you know, like that's there. And I think there's something beautiful about you pursuing creative spaces where you get to brand and envision and try something out. And in that, you get like a really wide range of skills and tools, which then become very important afterwards. So for you to pursue that, whether in leadership and student groups, for organizations that you believe in, projects are fun. You just do a project for a month and two, even if it's just you. And even if it doesn't continue forever, you get to try something out. And when you build that into your portfolio, it's clear that you're not just going to do creative work for them. You've been doing creative work all your life.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think important to like emphasize the fact each of you were opting in. Like you were saying, it wasn't that these things just happened in college. You were taking initiative and seeking out opportunities. Really important. Thank you. And so what would be the types of things, experiences, skills that entering the world of work that college did not prepare you for? Either that, or you can say you were just fully ready out of college and you were hit the ground running.
I think in college, you have group projects, but I don't think it really prepared me to dive in with web developers, copywriters, project managers, account managers, you know, like a whole breadth of different professions. You're in classes with other people who are also design majors. So that's definitely like a wake-up call. And I think having an internship or some sort of background outside of school is important, because then you get to be in those circumstances where you are able to work with other people with different skill sets and whatnot. I think when it comes to like the pace of work, I think that's totally different than in school. Like you have like, you know, a couple of weeks, a month to work on maybe one project. When at my current job, I might have like 10 projects that need to be done like in a day or two. So that definitely was also a surprise for me and something that I needed to get used to coming out of school. I think one more thing is like, sounds harsh, but like rejection. I think it's, I think there are points in schooling where you have creative reviews and, you know, you get like constructive feedback and stuff from your professors and your peers. But when it comes to, you know, a client just flat out saying, I hate it, you know, like start from scratch, you know, you gotta learn to pick yourself up and, you know, learn from what was done, still be true to what you're doing and the company you're working for is doing, and find another solution. So.
A big thing for me, just because I was working with a lot of nonprofits, or even like with my previous job, I was working with a very, very small company. So you are able to work faster and do a lot of work yourself. And then like switching over to like this huge corporate world for me was a big transition, just kind of like culture shock a little bit, just because there's so many levels you have to go through. I think that was one of the biggest challenges recently for me that I guess college didn't prepare me for, apart from like having to work with like a lot of different departments, but like also it's just like another level when you're in a really, really big corporate environment. That is interesting. You may need to move faster with certain things, and some things that you really love that you want to implement are going to move a little bit slower. So the change of that pace was something that was really interesting to me that college didn't prepare me for. It's yeah, different.
Yeah, I think for me, you know, I have to go back to the comment about rejection. Like creative work is inherently emotional and personal, right? You're putting yourself into this and into a way, right? You have to figure out some boundaries to learn that this is the work, and you go home and you give your best, and then you fix it, and you're able to have that feedback. You're able to make those changes and understand that what you like may not necessarily be the needs of the organization, the needs of that client, the needs of that project. And that's really important. I think also boundaries are important when it comes to time, because creative work can be done all the time, right? You could be working on Photoshop all day. But I remember having a mentor tell me that once you're 80% done with a project, you're done. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm not done. I still have to do all these other, no. You're 80% good is their 100%. And you need to save the rest of the energy for the feedback you're going to get to fix the 80% that isn't what they need. But if you, like, the last 5% is so marginal, right, of impact. It's like you fix these things that take 2 hours, but no one ever even noticed. And so I had to learn these little things to protect myself, to protect my time, to protect my energy, because ultimately it never stops. There's going to be a creative project next month. There's going to be a creative thing. And you have to sustain yourself as you keep doing this important work.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly echo the comments that the other three have mentioned. It's like there's a difference, like once you get into that real job, and it's like at least 40 hours a week, and you no longer get like spring break, you no longer get like summer break at the same level. I know we all like work through the summer, even in college, but it's like it's different when you're like doing creative work all the time, 40 hours a week, and then you have to continue to go in and churn. And because like my first job, I was working on 8 projects at a time. And that's hard. It's hard to balance. You got to learn to balance that. So.
I think I'm still sitting on the comment as well about like rejection or resiliency, especially having, I would say I have all the feels and the empathy and working with John Carlos and seeing, you know, the work that goes into everything you're doing. And then knowing that when others, you know, put their fingers on it and things get critiqued and it becomes iterative, I can definitely imagine, you know, what you're going through with that. So with that said, how would you, each of you, you know, prepare students for those type of things of just working with others? You talked about working with, you know, different majors. What are the type of routines, practices, you know, skill sets that you would encourage?
One of the major things with like rejection is to make sure you're not married to your work. Being open to have that flexibility, knowing that it's not coming to you personally. Even though, you know, you kind of do sometimes, I think is one of the biggest things, making sure that you have that space to make sure you can let it go and have it turn into something different than what you expected, and having that mindset, you know, before you even start a project.
Yeah, one thing I remember specifically from my college experience that was really helpful to me was like when I was in an art class and it came time to do critiques. Like that's, I think, critical. Like that's a critical learning exercise to do at the university level, because you have to learn how to give feedback as well as take it. Because me, I was someone, like especially in college, that was very conflict avoidant. And that's one thing that in my career I've had to overcome, that ability to give, you know, um, pointed feedback, so you can have a better product in the long run, but as well as receive it. Because I mean, like, you know, when you're sitting in the room with the CEO of a company that may not know anything about a website and they're giving you feedback that's like, uh, that's probably not the greatest feedback. You know, like, you know, make the logo. They always want to make the logo 25% bigger. So I always started with the logo 25% smaller. That's a piece of advice because it's going to get bigger in the process of the design. Yeah, but those are things like art class critiques. Like really focus in on those and like just learn not to take feedback personally. That's an important one.
I think going off of what Brandon said, um, like it's very important to know that, yeah, not everyone has the same background of knowing Photoshop and knowing the basic standard like design principles. Like not everyone went through all of that. So it's important to remember that you have to walk through things at almost like an elementary level with all those things with people who don't have that background. And it's not a personal thing. It's just they just don't know certain things. So that's your job to educate them. Because then once they know, then they'll know the next time, and then they can pass along to somebody else. So you can kind of look at like we're sort of like educators where we're doing our design job, but we're also communicating all these principles to people to understand and make better designs.
Yeah, yeah. In some ways, we fall in love with the creative process, and part of that is that feedback. Like I think for me, part of the work that we do as educators, right, is figuring out how to communicate to our client or our leadership what the process can look like. Because I remember early on in my creative career, like I would give a logo to someone and I would give them all the options. Here are all the fonts, here are all the colors, here are all the things. And the goal of it is to figure out what they like, because they have no ability to communicate to me what they want, right? I just want to figure out what they want. They look at the whole thing and it's like, I don't like it. I don't think I'm going to use you. And you're like, I don't even know what font you want. what do you want me to do? And I had to we had to have a creative process and be like, so right now we're going to go into a concept and I need you to tell me what you like so I can start moving in the right direction. We're going to move into some drafts and it's not going to be ready. It's not going to be ready, but we're going to get closer and closer. And I fell in love with the creative process, and it's really important to educate the people that you're helping so that they know what to expect and they're not frustrated by it. I think in all of this also, one of my favorite authors, Elizabeth Gilbert, she wrote Eat, Pray, Love. She writes a book called Big Magic. She talks about finding this creative energy in you. And she talks about the concept of choosing your own, and then the S word, right? Choosing your own, people choose their passions as careers. But what they don't understand that each of those careers has specific crappy portions that many of them might not even want to do, right? But when you love something so dearly, you're willing to do that crap. It's like a part of the thing. You accept it. I'm willing to get feedback and make something beautiful. I'm willing to go through these steps and steps and steps and steps to do that. But there are other careers where there are people at Wallin that fundraise. I don't want to fundraise. I don't want to convince someone to give money. That's not I don't want to do that. There will never be a world where I love that, right? But I will choose feedback and I will choose the process. I will choose sometimes it feels arbitrary. You said you wanted this and I brought you this exactly. And then you said you don't like it. I mean, all of that is just a part of it. And I feel like for you, if you have experiences with creative work, you will find out, I love working for one organization, but when I did freelancing and I met people who had no idea about the creative process and I had to solve their entire problem and their business as well with my marketing, gosh, that was tiring. And I could do that for a lot of money, but not for nothing or not for very few. And so you do these experiences that teach you what kind of crap you're willing to do because of the work that you love and what kind of work just really isn't for you.
I feel energized after each of those responses. We had several student questions come in. Jacqueline, would you mind sharing your question?
Hi, yes, I'm Jackie, and I noticed that several of you kept talking about rejection and not giving everything and keeping space for improvement. But I was just wondering how you guys motivate yourself from not experiencing the burnout, or if you guys have ever been burned out from so much creativity. How do you guys keep pushing yourself to stay in the career that you're in, or from changing a different path?
Yeah, Jackie, that's a great question. I think it's the $1 million question in some ways. But at least in my career, so because I had picked up a lot of different skills, I tried a lot of different things early in my career. So even though I was in the one agency, I tried, I was a designer, I was a developer, I went into team lead roles when I could. I tried project management and all these different things to just try and get the experience of them, which kind of gave me mental breaks because I just had so much work personally at that company. And I think some of it is knowing when the experience is valuable of doing all that work versus when it's time to stop working for that company and going somewhere else where you're more valued. And because there are agencies that view you more as a resource. And then there are other companies, now I work for a company where I have much more focus. It's much more granular, and that comes with the experience. And I have a team that does a lot of work. So now, I design a feature and then I get to hand it off and watch the developers build it. I mean, it's lovely. I mean, from that perspective, but as far as managing the creative flow, you got to make sure you take time for yourself. I got to remind myself to do that. I mean, I also have kids, I have a family. It's there's a lot, but it comes down, I like to listen to more creative podcasts. There are certain ones that will they bring me motivation and make me think about interesting things. But sometimes you just got to design through the ruts too. And it's not your best work, but the job's done and you get a paycheck. I mean, that's sometimes how it is too.
Yeah, I'll echo Brandon. I think what's great about having a graphic design career is that there's so many positions out there that just isn't just graphic design. You know, you can be specific to print, you can do digital work, you can be a web developer, you can do UX, you can start being an animator. So there are definitely a lot of directions you can take with a graphic design degree. And it's important, I think, to find what you feel most comfortable in and where you thrive in, and something that you really enjoy doing. But yeah, also like have time for yourself. You know, if it's not like looking up design blogs and watching tutorials, like look at something else that's creative, like knitting or I don't know, cooking. You know, it doesn't have to be design all the time. You know, we all have lives, we all have different interests. All of that feeds into eventually you being a designer, but just comes in different ways. So, you know, just try to balance out work and hobbies and such. So.
Yeah, I think this is such an important question because you're more important than the work you do. You know, we want to see you succeed and thrive in life, and that's more important than the job you'll do for 4 or 5 years or 2 years, right? I think for me, as I think about this, even your advisors have helped me with this. You know, I remember talking to the director of advising scholar programs, Amy, and I was like talking to her about these creative problems I have, and and she was like, John, like even if you didn't do this project, even if like we couldn't accomplish this, we'd get it done. It wouldn't look as nice. It wouldn't be that cool, but we'd be fine. The organization always goes on. But you need to take care of yourself. And I learned, like, while the organization may care about me and people in the organization may care about me individually, ultimately it is not the organization's role to take care of me. It's my role to take care of me. I need to figure out what my boundaries are. I like, it's one thing when you do a project and you get feedback and you fix it, and that's what part of your job. But it's another thing if you extend yourself, if you go outside of your boundaries and expectations to make it amazing, and then it gets rejected, well, then that's a whole other boat, right? It hurts in a deeper way. And so it is not the organization's role to take care of you. It is your role to take care of you. And I do that in several ways. One, I like the Pomodoro method. It's a method where you work for 25 minutes and you don't work for 5 minutes. And then you start again, you work for 25 minutes and you don't work for 5 minutes. And for me and my work style, it gives me, if I'm not engaged, it gives me the structure I need to get a little thing done, stop. Then another thing done, and then I make so much progress. But if you just look at a piece of paper for 2 hours, you'll get nothing done. Just accomplish one thing, stop. Accomplish another thing, because what you find is that your employer really isn't paying you for time. Your employer, well, sometimes they are, of course, that billable hours are a real thing, but they're really paying you for creativity, for a result. And if you can get them a result that's beautiful, even if it wasn't a different set of, like, that can still be more impactful, especially for me that I'm salaried. Again, billable hours is a different thing. But I think for me, I just discovered that I could work harder. I know maybe some of the other panelists can speak to this. Have you ever had those days where you work really hard and accomplish nothing, and days where you don't do that much and you have a great idea and in like an hour you solve the entire problem? Like, more time and more energy does not equal more better. Sometimes it's actually taking care of yourself and then having the idea that is actually cheaper and less time consuming.
Yeah, for sure. Burnout is real, and working from home. Well, I'm working from home until like November, December, which is like a whole nother level of productivity and burnout. That's we can get into another thing, but like I think everybody touched upon, like, really taking care of yourself, and like part of that is becoming like a good advocate for yourself. Like, yes, the work is good, but you have to also manage like those boundaries, and like communicate really well with your team or your manager. See if you can like brainstorm some ideas if you're having really hard day trying to make a big breakthrough by yourself. Like, right now, since we're not all together, like trying to come up with like a Zoom call or just like a Skype chat, we can still do that digitally versus what we would do in person. So yeah, just making sure you're communicating your needs to your team and your manager to make sure you're managing those expectations as well. Right now within my position, I don't have a lot of creative work where I'm producing myself. I'm acting kind of, my role right now is more of a consultant. So like what HQ produces, I'm kind of like trickling down the information and making it more manageable for our distributors in Asia and Latin America, especially since there's some knowledge or language barriers. So I still have to be creative in how I'm teaching these projects so they can implement them as well. So there is some creative work, but it's kind of different. So it's just a different environment. But overall, like that time management skill with like 25 on, 5 off is really great when you're having those difficult days, for sure. And then something that I do, or that I did this week, for example, when I was doing one of those like those crappy parts of work that you don't really like, but you kind of have to do. Since I'm working from home, I put on something creative on Netflix that I'm obsessed with. It's called Glow Up, where it's like makeup looks, and they do like these amazing projects. And you get I got inspired by their creativity and their determination to really think outside the box. And then I was able to jump back on and then go on my next project, kind of a little bit more motivated, seeing all their dedication to their work. But yeah, within my role, I work with e-commerce, social media influencers. So if I'm not feeling I don't want to look at websites all day, I'll jump on and seeing what they're doing on social media and giving them tips on that. So I have a lot of flexibility within my job. So if I feel burnt out in one aspect, I can jump on another one where I feel like I could do a little bit more work on that aspect that day.
Thank you so much, H, for sharing. I think that's especially important as so many of us are working from home and have different routines. Practicing that self-care and personal wellness. Our organizations, they want you around for the long term, so certainly don't want to be sacrificing, that short term for the long term. To learn a little more about your specific roles, would you mind sharing about like what a typical day looks like, or even like a current project that you're working on?
Yeah, I'll go first. I don't think there's like a typical day in that everything's exactly the same every single day, but my job is a 9 to 5. And again, I'm a studio artist at an advertising agency. So most of my time is on the computer using Adobe software. I will have meetings, creator reviews in between each of these projects. So my major role as a studio artist is to take an idea or a concept created by another designer, and a designer that worked with the copywriter and other folks, and actually create it to completion. So whether that's like billboards, we work with Culver's, for example. So billboards for Culver's, or animating banner ads that everyone hates for clients. Creating like end slates for commercials for like batteries plus bulbs is another client of ours for a TV commercial, or getting assets for a web developer, working with them and a UX designer to create a website. So my role, there are definitely a couple of things here and there that I do, but yeah, that's my role.
Thank you. And I was just going to say, and Helen, I think, asked the question better than I could in terms of just giving, total context to your work environment.
Just to add to that, yeah, I'm at home, working from home, exclusively from home. All my meetings are through Microsoft Teams, and we have other project management tools to like review projects and critique projects. So that's my situation.
So normally, I work at an office. It's an open space office. Dermalogica has like 300 employees in that office, with also the warehouse. So it's a very diverse environment and super open space, and everyone's super friendly. We would walk up to someone's office and just talk about a project or just in general. And so now it's just stuck at home in my bedroom. So it's kind of a little bit more depressing. But I try to go outside and like work outside, like in my little patio area, backyard, after like noon, just to get some fresh air, and get a little, I don't know, I just feel more creative outside too. So that's my work environment now. I have morning meetings. I talk a lot with our United team in the mornings, and I sometimes stay late right now, just especially working from home, talking to my Asia team up until like 8 or 9 p.m. Just because of the time difference. So my schedule right now is super flexible, and thankfully this could continue post pandemic, I guess, which my manager's really open with me, since I'm able to support my teams better in certain times of the day. I can have more flexibility, which is, I think, a plus for me. Since I work with international department, I do have a travel budget, which is an awesome little bonus. I like in February went to Mexico, and I was supposed to go to Brazil, but pandemic happened. So hopefully whenever everything opens up, I'll be able to travel it, work directly with our distributors once that's available. With my team, we talk through email, Zoom, Teams, even WhatsApp on cell phones. So yeah, I'm all off very, very often talking to basically everyone around the world in one single day. Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I, as a manager of marketing at Wallin, I get to do a lot of the website stuff, branding, videos. A lot of my days are include meetings to discuss different creative projects. One of those creative projects right now is our outreach video. So normally we get to go into schools, which means we make posters and flyers to promote our scholarship. This year, because of COVID, we're not going to be able to do that as much. And as a result, we're working on an outreach video that hopefully we'll be able to go into things like Instagram, so that there'll be like an ad, not just post. One of the cool things we're trying to experiment with is seeing if we can make it a custom video for each school, so that the video would 95% be the same, but maybe at the beginning it would say, "Hey seniors from Blaine," or "Hey Bengals," and then we would, put that ad only for Blaine. And so then when people think about our scholarship, they're not thinking, "Man, I'm going to compete with people all across the state or nationally. I'm probably not going to get it." They would think about our scholarship as, "Oh, Blaine, I'm from Blaine." Yeah. And feel that it would be more accessible. So these are just some creative things. We're still trying to figure that out, but that's an example of one project. As for my workspace, I wish I could just turn my camera around and show you. I have a laptop and then a beautiful wide monitor. That you get one of those, get your employer to get you one of those, because they are like, I can have like 4 windows. It's just amazing. These are little things. And then I have a desk, and I have my own, this is like, I live with my boyfriend, and this is a room designated as my office. That really helped me. Like a couple months back, I was like with 3 roommates, and like I was at the dining room table. So for me, having my own space is really meaningful. And I love working from home. I hope we work from home in 10 years. I hope everyone works from home. And it's just the flexibility you have. Do you think about how much you spend driving? Like I spend an hour driving every day to work, like 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back, 20 minutes for lunch. Like it's just a lot. And And I really like the flexibility that we have now.
Yeah, and so I'm in my house right now. I'm actually sitting in the spot where Rachel normally sits, but I have my own spot. I have a separate monitor. I have a nice work chair, things like that. Even before the pandemic, I was working from home like 2 days a week, mostly because my day is on Zoom. It's been on Zoom. It's on Slack. So PRX, we have an office in Minneapolis, and we just moved to the building with the Bob Dylan mural. So it's a nice kind of loft space. It's skyway connected. And but we have a Boston office, and on the tech team specifically, I have colleagues that are in Estes Park, Omaha, Sioux Falls, Duluth, other places, Boston, and so we're remote anyway. So even if I'm in the office, I'm still on Zoom all day. So it's and that's kind of like a challenge, and and more in my role, because I see my role like the end result of my work is the design work and the product, but the bulk of the work is actually like just having conversations with individuals and different or like different stakeholders we have and producers and listening. So like I try to have like one-on-one walks with colleagues when I go to the office, right? So I can just kind of know what's going on and how like the tech team can help them out in their jobs, and things like that. And yeah, so like half my day is meetings, half my day I have my time to do the actual work. And yeah, and to protect my creativity as I see these other questions, I take walks during the day when I can. One of the nice things about working remotely, like when I first started doing it, I always felt a little guilty about being able to do it. But now, as I've done it for a few while, like it's okay to like sneak off and take a 15-minute nap. Like that's okay. That is creative work. Sometimes napping is creative work. Sometimes taking a walk is creative work. Like, so that's kind of how I protect myself a little bit. So.
Yeah, I love it. I'm very much an optimist and looking for the silver lining in different moments. And I think COVID and this whole stay at home has been a different experience for all of us that's affected us differently. And so I love the examples you have both shared or all have shared, and even like going on walks and those type of things becoming more mainstream to talk about. That is a healthy recharge. A couple questions came in both from Aisha and Jacqueline. I know we only have a couple minutes left, so if you each have anything else that you would like to add to those two questions, feel free to share, and then we'll plan on concluding from there.
Can I just say it? Kind of thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. So mine was about the protecting creativity. And I had to write this out because it was very confusing. So I hope it makes sense. So to me, creativity, I think somebody said it, it's very personal, right? And it's very fragile. I see it as a hobby that I love. So it seems like that personal part of it is in danger when it is turned into work. I feel like making it work will kind of ruin that fun and love for me. So I think that part of it has to do with the fact that now money's attached to it and you're working in a company now and it has like all these complexities. So I guess how do you protect that creativity now that it's an actual work, and how do you balance creativity from your personal life with creativity in your work life? I hope that makes sense. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. And I think you experience that when you start doing some projects for money, when you start feeling, oh man, I was doing this for fun, and this is how it felt. And then I did this for money, and this is how it felt. It can change. I will say that like your what you bring to the world is payable. You know what I mean? Like you are doing great things and you have something to bring, and we want you to be paid, right, for that work, if that's the kind of work that you want to do in the world. Because what I find is that I remember I worked at Comcast while I was at school, and I decided to do some freelancing. So I made myself a website, and I started out with a couple projects. But on top of working 40 hours a week, like dealing with other people's branding problems for money, I was like, my time is worth more than that money. Like, you could pay me $100 an hour, but I just would rather have a weekend. Sorry, I don't care. I just, like, you realize how much your time was worth and how much your money is worth. But that being said, when it's your job, it's your 40 hours a week, I love my job. I love the work I do. Some of the work I do, obviously, isn't my own, right? It's supporting something that already exists, and that's still okay. But it has that space. I have other places in my life where I get to be creative. But also, like, once you do that for a living, once you do Photoshop for a living, there's also a part of you that, like, doesn't want to do Photoshop for, like, a hobby sometimes, right? I mean, it's not perfect. Like, there are churches and organizations that I do creative work for, but there's a part of it, like, it's about using all the parts of your brain. If you use, like, this creative part of your brain for 50 hours a week, you'll find that you will want to use other parts of your brain for the rest of that time. But it's not that working creatively and having a job that is creative that pays you for it will inherently make you hate the creative work you do. It just will shift it from being something you do for fun to something that you do as a role and you have responsibility with. And if that job is something you care about and love, it'll be fine. You'll still love it, and you'll still be a full person. I hope that answers the question.
I think design is a process, right? So sure, you have your creativity coming into it, and you're afraid of damaging it with when other people come in. But maybe think of it as a process where, you know, other people are bringing in their expertise and their knowledge, and in the end, it's all about what that project is for, right? Is it to look super fancy and designy, or is it there to solve a problem or have an objective to complete, you know? And yeah, like John Carlos said, like, you know, find other outlets for being creative that isn't, you know, your job. There are plenty of options out there that aren't your job, but you know, you still want to love what you're doing at your work. So.
And then just to touch upon the last question, overall, I think a really positive part of my job with the pandemic has been that I've been actually more connected with my markets than ever before. This has pushed them to, like, let's say Latin America. This has pushed them to really like accelerate like their e-commerce, for example, and really like drive more digital aspects. So they're just a little bit more on top of things now, which is great. And this trickles down to not just like HQ level, but like even like PST, like small businesses in their own countries are also getting resources from us now to drive more digital efforts, which has never been done before. So I feel like overall my work environment has moved digitally completely. Like, all the pressure's on me. But it's a good pressure because we're making an impact in like these countries that haven't really had the accessibility to really have these drivers to really push them to do further with what even they could thought personally they could do on their own. So this is a really great thing. Like, there's just been so many more projects that have been more meaningful that I have been involved with, that this pandemic has allowed me to do.
Well, I do want to respect everyone's time. I know it is 1 p.m. Thank you so much to each of our speakers for sharing today about your roles. As we started the conversation saying, you know, creativity is the spice of life. You are the ones that make the world more fun and interesting and engaging. So thank you for all of that. Super appreciative of having the time today to hear from each of you. If students are able to get in contact with you, if you'd be willing to share your email in the chat bar. Otherwise, we would encourage students to check out LinkedIn to follow up if there's further questions. And for our students on the line as well, we do have our career fair prep event coming up on September 11th and an opportunity to meet with employers September 24th. With that, I will say have a great weekend and look forward to talking to everyone soon. Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks everybody. This was fun.